Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series where we briefly discuss and analyze important news of the day. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. A sitting judge of the Calcutta High Court resigns and announces his decision to join politics. Maldives signs China military pact in further shift away from India. End-to-end quantum communication link involving both fiber and free space would be established as a transport medium. India's first city-specific zero-carbon buildings action plan has been launched in Nagpur. France becomes the only country to explicitly guarantee abortion as a constitutional right. The World Bank releases Women, Business and the Law 2024 report. Starting with the first news. A sitting judge of the Calcutta High Court resigns and announces his decision to join politics. Experts believe that such moves not only undermine the credibility of the judiciary, but also go against constitutional morality as it breaches Article 50 of the Constitution. The article provides that the state shall take steps to separate the judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state. Also, there is a possibility of post-retirement jobs influencing pre-retirement judgments. If we talk about some earlier instances of judges taking up politics, then a former Chief Justice of India contested for the presidency of India in 1967. Also, a Supreme Court judge contested the 1983 Lok Sabha polls from Barpeta in Assam. Moreover, in 1952, a Supreme Court judge was appointed as the governor of Orissa. In this regard, the Constitution is silent on post-retirement rehabilitation of judges by the executive. However, the Supreme Court adopted the Restatement of Values of Judicial Life in 1997. Some of the values are: any act of a judge which erodes the credibility of the judiciary has to be avoided. A judge should not contest the election to any office of a club, society, or other association. The 14th Law Commission Report 1958 recommended that judges should be barred from accepting employment with the union or the state as a post-retirement job.
In another news, Maldives signs China military pact in further shift away from India. The decision coincides with its president's announcement that there will be no Indian military presence in the country. Let's begin by understanding about the growing presence of China in Maldives. China has increasingly expanded its footprint in Maldives. A Chinese firm acquired an islet named Feidhu Finholhu on a 50-year lease. Investment in large-scale infrastructure projects like the $200 million China-Maldives Friendship Bridge. The Chinese research vessel Xiangyang Hong 03 is permitted to dock at Mailport. Here are the concerns for India. In terms of India's security, Chinese presence in Maldives could affect Indian security, given the island chain's proximity to India's western coast. China's increasing presence in the area could alter the regional balance of power and challenge India's influence. China has set up a military base in Djibouti and has developed several dual-use ports in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and more. In line for the strategic competition, the Indian Ocean is strategically significant for both India and China. China's growing influence can further the strategic competition. Lastly, China's string of pearls. This strategy involves establishing a network of naval bases and infrastructure in the Indian Ocean encircling India. Further, steps taken by India to counter Chinese influence include strategic partnerships with like-minded countries including the United States, Japan, Australia, and other regional partners. Multilateral engagement like the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium (IONS) and the Indian Ocean Rim Association (IORA). Lastly, the diplomatic outreach to voice concerns about China's expanding influence.
Moving on to the next news. End-to-end quantum communication link involving both fiber and free space would be established as a transport medium. In a first for India, Center for Development of Telematics and Physical Research Laboratory demonstrated integration of CDOT's indigenous fiber-based quantum key distribution system with PRL's free space quantum key distribution. Center for Development of Telematics, or CDOT, is the telecom research and development arm of the Department of Telecommunications. And the Physical Research Laboratory, or PRL, is a research institute under the Department of Space. Now let us discuss and understand about quantum key distribution. It is one of the techniques of quantum communications which enables future-proof security of communication networks using a cryptographic protocol involving components of quantum mechanics. It enables two parties to produce a shared random secret key known only to them, which can then be used to encrypt and decrypt messages. Any intervention or tampering in the quantum channel gets detected and key distribution can be aborted. Quantum key distribution can be deployed through different mediums like optical fiber, free space, as well as satellite to provide end-to-end security over the communication network. Quantum communications is one of the four verticals of quantum technology, along with quantum computing, quantum sensors, and quantum materials. Quantum technology is based on principles of quantum mechanics such as superimposition, entanglement, and tunneling. Its applications are in secure communication, computing, simulation, chemistry, healthcare, cryptography, imaging, among others. At last, now let's also have a look at the initiatives taken for quantum technology development in India, which includes National Mission on Quantum Technologies and Applications, Quantum-Enabled Science and Technology, and Quantum Frontier Mission of Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council, and National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical Systems. Moving on to the next news. India's first city-specific zero-carbon buildings action plan has been launched in Nagpur. Nagpur's Zero Carbon Buildings Action Plan aims at developing all buildings to be net zero carbon by 2050. Zero carbon buildings are buildings that improve their life cycle environmental performance through measures that reduce embodied, operational and end-of-life GHG emissions without compromising visual and thermal comforts. This plan in Nagpur has been developed jointly with implementing partners of the Zero Carbon Building Accelerator project. This project was launched by World Resources Institute in 2021 along with its global partners. Nagpur is one of 6 global cities apart from cities in Kenya, Costa Rica, Turkey and Colombia where the Zero Carbon Buildings Action Plan project is being implemented. Now let's understand the need for Zero Carbon Buildings Action Plan. India's building-related greenhouse gas emissions have more than doubled from 2000 to 2017. Also, over the next 20 to 30 years, greenhouse gas emissions from India's steel and cement industry are estimated to increase by nearly 3 and 6 times respectively. Additionally, brick kilns are another major source of carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide and other particulate emissions. Furthermore, Nagpur's Zero Carbon Buildings Action Plan builds upon national policy frameworks and initiatives supporting building decarbonization, which include India's nationally determined contributions, India's long-term low-carbon development strategy, Energy Conservation Building Code 2017, green building rating systems such as Indian Green Building Council, Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment, and Eco Nivas Samhita 2018.
In another news, France becomes the only country to explicitly guarantee abortion as a constitutional right. This comes after the controversial decision by the US Supreme Court to strip women of the right to abortion. Here are the arguments in favor of abortion. Abortion rights are essential to uphold a woman's autonomy and bodily integrity. Another, denying abortion jeopardizes women's health, freedom, and equality. For the arguments against abortion, first is that terminating a pregnancy is equivalent to taking a human life. And another, the psychological and emotional impact of it on women who undergo the procedure. In India, the Medical Termination of Pregnancy (MTP) Act 1971 permits licensed medical professionals to perform abortions in specific predetermined situations. As per the 2021 amendment in the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, the opinion of only one doctor will be required up to 20 weeks of gestation. An authorization of 2 doctors is required for gestation period from 20 to 24 weeks for special categories of women like survivors of rape, victims of incest, and more. Further, in the Supreme Court judgment X versus Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare, Government of NCT of Delhi, Supreme Court held that unmarried women have same right to abortion as married women. And it also ruled that under the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, rape would include marital rape as well. In another news, the World Bank releases Women, Business and Law 2024 report. The report measures the laws that affect women's economic opportunity in 190 economies. The report assesses economies across 10 indicators: safety, mobility, workplace, pay, marriage, parenthood, childcare, entrepreneurship, assets, and pension. Here are the key findings of the report. It measures the gap between women's legal rights on paper and reality. Globally, women have just 2/3 of the right of men in the workplace. Indian women have just 60% of the legal rights compared to men. Women earn just 77 cents for every dollar paid to men. Less than 20% economies adopted enforcement mechanisms to address the pay gap. Nearly all economies performed poorly in safety and childcare. Women have a third of the legal protection they need from domestic violence, sexual harassment, child marriage, and femicide. Women spend nearly 2.4 hours more a day on unpaid care work than men, much of it involving childcare. The report also made some recommendations. It recommended to expand maternity and paternity leave provisions. Also, to enact legal mandate for equal pay and lift restrictions on women's work in industrial jobs. Thirdly, to implement legally binding quotas for women on corporate boards. Lastly, to ensure equal retirement benefits for women accounting for childcare-related work absences. Further, let's look into the initiatives taken by India for gender equality in workplace. The Code on Wages 2019 prohibits gender discrimination in matters related to wages and recruitment of employees for the same work or work of similar nature. Another, Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2017. It provides for maternity benefits and creche facility in every establishment having 50 or more employees. Lastly, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013, also known as POSH Act. In today's Place in News, we will discuss France with its capital, Paris. The second India-France Strategic Space Dialogue underscored the growing importance of space cooperation in bilateral relations. Let's discuss its political features. France lies near the western end of the Great Eurasian landmass. Its bordering nations are Belgium and Luxembourg on the east by Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and Andorra, England. Monaco is an independent enclave on the south coast, and the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean is an integral part of the country. Its bordering water bodies include the Mediterranean, the Bay of Biscay, English Channel, and Strait of Dover. In terms of its geographical features, the major mountain ranges include the French Alps, the Jura Mountains, the Pyrenees. Its highest point is the Mont Blanc. And the major rivers are the Seine and the Loire, the Rhône and the Rhine.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The Supreme Court restrained Patanjali Ayurved from advertising or branding its products meant to address the diseases or disorders specified in Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisements Act 1954. The Act aims to control advertisement of drugs in certain cases and to prohibit advertisement for remedies alleged to possess magic qualities. Researchers, as part of the James Webb Space Telescope Uncover program, finds a clue about the end of dark ages in the early universe. Dark ages refer to a period when sources of light were cloaked in a dense fog of neutral hydrogen gas. It was followed by the epoch of reionization that arose because of the arrival of the first stars and galaxies. North America's Great Lakes have recorded significantly below average ice cover for the second consecutive year in a row. Great Lakes, which are Superior, Michigan, Huron, Eyre, and Ontario, form the largest fresh surface water systems on Earth. Except for Lake Michigan, the lakes provide a natural border between Canada and the United States. Supreme Court approves Rajasthan government's two-child rule. It upheld Rule 24, Clause 4 of Rajasthan Police Subordinate Service Rule 1989 as non-discriminatory and constitutional. It stipulates a maximum limit of 2 children per candidate. A similar provision was upheld by the Supreme Court in its 2003 ruling in Javed v. State of Haryana. It was introduced as an eligibility condition to contest panchayat elections. Scientists unveiled the first in-depth study of Earth's magnificent desert star dunes, revealing the internal structure. The study focused on a star dune in Erg Cebi, eastern Morocco, called Lala Lalia, meaning highest sacred point. Star dunes are formed in areas with complex wind regimes, which means winds blowing from different directions. Parak has devised the holistic progress card for foundational stage classes 1 and 2, preparatory stage classes 3 to 5, and middle stage classes 6 to 8. Currently working on developing one for the secondary stage. Parak, which stands for Performance Assessment, Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development, is the National Assessment Center. The Reserve Bank of India has given approval for implementing an interoperable payment system for internet banking transactions as envisaged in RBI's Payments Vision 2025. It will be implemented by NPCI Bharat Bill Pay Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of National Payments Corporation of India. According to RBI, 30 banks have become part of RBI's Udgam portal. It facilitates the registered users to search unclaimed deposits or accounts across multiple banks in one place in a centralized manner. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.